mysterious and wealthy country lies in the center of Asia. A cradle of nations, the birthplace of legends and myths. Native land of bloody conquerors, whose towns were buried under the sands of the Gobi Desert. These towns are still keeping ancient culture of tribes and their dateless nomadic laws. Land of monks and shamans, a sacred way to Shambhala. There are millions of roads, high mountain passes defended by spirits, sacred lakes full of fish, vastness of deserts, and plains that are hot-tempered for ages. The land of eternal blue sky is filled with vast, beautiful wilderness. There are plenty of horses, sheep, camels, a great number of wild birds, hawks, that are tamed by local people. This country is incredibly rich in natural resources. Mongolia. We have been traveling for 21 days, driving 5,000 kilometers, and now you can experience it, just in 30 minutes. Mongolia ranks as the 17th largest country in the world, with a population of about 3.5 million people. The most heavily populated area is the capital, Ulaanbaatar. Mongolia is divided into 21 provinces, IMACs, that have their own administrative entities, Somons. Mongolia is a plateau located from 900 to 1,500 meters above the sea level. We start our expedition from the western part. Our first stop is Bayan-Ulgi, the province which is inhabited mostly by Kazakhs. There is a beautiful freshwater lake of a glacial origin, not far from the town Ulgi. It is called the Tolbo Nur. Lake Tolbo Nur lies at an altitude of 2,080 meters above the sea level. The water is warm enough for swimming in hot weather. The lake abounds in different kinds of fish: grayling, white gallinule, osman, and others. Along the shore there are some shepherd huts and yurt camps. Our main and desirable travel goal is to visit Kermentsav Canyon. The way to Canyon is a high-quality asphalt road with splendid natural scenes around. The landscape views are very similar to Arizona natural settings. Just a couple of years ago, there was not such a good road at all. Globalization is taking over, and very likely it changes natural and cultural authenticity of nomadic country. Thus we've tried to pictorialize the local lifestyle. We visited nomads suddenly, just pulling off the road. The locals are very welcoming. This is a Mongolian ger, and that is one too. And that one. But this is a Kazakh yurt. Now in details. Ger, as well as yurt, is a portable housing in the form of circle made of felt. Ger is still used not only in the country, but by citizens of Ulaanbaatar and other cities. They even make elite glamping of gers. Two people can assemble and disassemble a ger in an hour. It weighs 250 kilograms and is carried on by camels, cart or by car. The door of Mongolian ger always faces the south, to be more exact, the downwind. Opposite side of the entrance is an honorable side, where important guests are invited, and an altar with the gods' images is kept, faces the north. Photos of ancestors are usually put there too. The right side is male, the left side is female. Interior is rich in colors. Furniture and wooden construction are colored in red or orange and painted with ornaments. Any of them is good wishes. Proportions of a gear recreate the sundial model. Interior layout can be divided into 12 parts. These parts are called like months in an Eastern calendar. For example, when the first sunbeam falls on a smoke hole in a hair hour, it's time for a cattle pasture. When the last sunbeam falls in a hen hour, it's time for evening milking. The construction of a gear is very simple. All parts have sacred meaning. By the way, children's building sets in the form of a gear are very popular in Mongolia. Now about yurt. This word is more common for us. A Kazakh yurt differs from a gear. The main difference is size. It's bigger, wider, and higher. There is no arch support. Kazakh yurts have double doors and the felt canopy is widely used. All parts of the frame are connected with the help of ropes, fabric belts, and encircled with white cloth stripes. Unlike Mongolian gear, a Kazakh yurt is lavishly decorated inside with felt carpets with different ornaments. Modern citizens often put cloth like tarpaulin on the top of their yurt. There is also a division into male and female parts there. The most honorable place for guests and an elder of a family is opposite the entrance, behind the hearth. Everyone is curious to know where and how nomads bathe. They free one of the yurts, boil water in the basins. However, they don't do it as often as Europeans. Every yurt in Mongolia has its own satellite dish, phone and TV. They powered by the solar energy. Mongolian traditional cuisine is connected with breeding. They use mutton, goat meat and beef for cooking. The meat of a carlike and horse meat is used less often. The meat of a marmot and other game is sometimes used too. In the process of being cooked, the meat of carlike and horse meat is used less often. The meat of marmot and other game is sometimes used too. In the process of cooking, meat can be medium rare to save vitamins. Mare, cow, yak and camel milk is used for dairy products. Raw milk is not used in the meal. It's for fermentation. Kumis is the main drink for Mongolians, but they also drink arhi, milk hooch.
Хороший, не крепкий. Градусов 8.
А пахнет от тебя знатно.
Там муха внутри, так надо? Да.
Да? Не нюхать.
Hot dried cheese is very popular too. Milk is processed for a long time. 3 or 5 types of milk are used.
Суп, наверное, готовят.
Local people are mainly involved in farming. Some of them are involved in light textile industry or mining. But there is a trade too. Mongolians got used to live by tribes and clans. That is why they still remember myths and legends, which go back thousands of years. Elders are easy to recognize. They wear ancient snuffbox headdresses, along with greased clothes and ancient silver jewelry on their hands. Children study at nearest somuns, sometimes in Ulaanbaatar. They go back home on their holidays. Luckily, we met gold miners on the way. Altai was behind the city. This illegal gold mining is held by the whole family in the dry riverbed. They are called ninja miners. They were given this nickname because they have green dishes on their backs, like turtles. We saw a small nugget and it's real luck. We continue to the Gobi Desert. The name Gobi is translated from Mongolian as a space deprived of water. Gobi is a large desert. It's divided into several areas. Mongolians say we have 33 Gobis, and they all are different. What do you imagine when you hear the word Gobi? Gobi will break this stereotype for sure. There are different types of Gobi deserts. There are stone, sandy and clay deserts. They can be red, black or green. There are canyons, barcans, oases, saxel groves, salines and hollows there. Saigas, jayrans, wild camels, gazelles, wolves, mountain sheep and bears live there. The Gobi Desert is on the territory of two countries, Mongolia and China. Winters are not only cold here, but with the strongest winds. Summer is very hot. Temperature in the winter falls to minus 55 degrees, but in summer goes up to plus 58. One can find dinosaurs' bones here in the sand surface because Gobi is 65 million years old. This area has been known as Desert Shamo from the ancient times. Europeans first knew about Gobi from Marco Polo. He was fascinated by its beauty. A lot of mysteries and legends are connected with Gobi. They say that Olgoy Korhoy, a dead earthworm, lives in its uninhabited areas. It can be seen on the surface only in the hottest months. Local people are afraid of it because it can kill from a distance. Some expeditions were lost looking for the worm. A holy tree is a wonderful spot which can be found in front of a canyon. People leave money and tie ribbons in this area for spirits' gratitude. In general, it's very unusual to find a big tree in the desert. We call it the first and the last tree. Next comes Saksaul Taiga. We stayed overnight in one picturesque oasis, Zulganai, not far from the canyon. Next morning, we came to the heart of Gobi, the canyon Kermentsav. The canyon is made from the red sandstone. It's a very vivid place. The land before time is the last shelter of dinosaurs. When you are here, the place looks like you go back to thousands of years ago. On the bottom of the canyon, one can see erosional relief appeared as a result of wind. In a dictionary of the Mongolian language, the word hermek means hermit. Hermek means a castle, but many Mongolians translate it into Russian as a wall cliff. A green and invisible from a valley, oasis is hidden among the canyon mazes, bizarre rocks, sand dunes in a deserted plateau Kermentsav. It's a real salvation for tired travelers. Canyon is one of the biggest in southern Mongolia. Some international expeditions worked there in the 20th century. According to their research, the entire mouth of Kermentsav was full of dinosaurs' bones and skeletons. They say they can be even found nowadays. Unfortunately, we failed to find any of them. But we saw fossilized eggs and bones, which had been gathered by local people for a private museum. Steep slopes of Kermentsav form monuments resembling either Egyptian sphinx or walls and towers. A difficult way to the canyon will make this place unknown for mass tourism for a long time. You won't see anyone there, which is good. We didn't want to leave the canyon because we liked that dry area. But we had to carry on. There was Kongorin Els that followed. The famous sand dunes, Kongorin Els, light or red sands. There is a very high level of groundwaters on the whole territory of the desert, from 0.5 to 1.5 meters. There are unique sources with fresh, clean water in some parts of wasteland. They usually make waterers for animals there. The sands of Kongorin Els extend to 185 kilometers. There are large sands, 3 to 15 kilometers wide. They are the biggest and the highest sands in Mongolian Gobi. They are 3 meters high. They sing too. Vibration of grains of sands creates a buzz, a song of wind and sand. There is a source of water and a touristic camp next to the foot of dunes on one side. But we stayed on another, so that nothing can distract us from enjoying this beauty. Sand dunes get amazing relief in the early hours of the morning and glow with gold in the afternoon. We went to Bayanzak Canyon. Seemed tiny for us. In 1925, the bones of various dinosaurs, fossilized eggs, were gathered by American expedition. It's unlikely that this type of discovery can happen again nowadays. This place is more available for tourists, and there are lots of them. Everyone wants to visit the famous cemetery of dinosaurs. It is Bayanzak where we experienced the power of Mongolian wind. In the late 40s of the 20th century, the paleontological expedition led by Ivan Yefremov worked there. He wrote "The Hollow in the Evening" was incomparably fantastic 10 minutes before sunset. Steep cliffs blazed with a bright red flame. The whole hollow seemed to turn into a sea of fire. It looked like flaming rocks. Every one of us got Gobi syndrome, a desire to come back to the desert again, to see milliards of stars, red sunsets, to stay overnight in the oasis, be near the fireplace, run on the dunes, and to be lost in the canyon mazes. You can feel a real freedom in Mongolia. The free wind blows from everywhere and reminds us of being nomads. The closer you're getting to Ulaanbaatar, the better the roads are. Ulaanbaatar was called Urga before Revolution 1921 and was not a city but a nomad camp next to a Buddhist monastery. Now, it's a modern industrial city with a population of more than 1.5 million of citizens. The traffic there is heavy. Traffic jams are quite common. We had been arriving at the city for more than 2 hours. Ulaanbaatar is being built up quickly, but this does not prevent the yurts standing almost in the center of the city. In any case, it was a pleasure to stay in a modern cosmopolitan city after steppes and deserts. One of the largest Genghis Khan's monument in Mongolia and the largest equestrian statue in the world are not far from Ulaanbaatar. The horseman statue is in the place where, according to the word of mouth, Genghis Khan found a golden whip, which became a sign of destiny to predict the creation of a great state. If we talk about the famous conqueror, his spirit is everywhere. One of the main sites of Ulaanbaatar is the Buddhist monastery, Gandan. It occupies a large territory. Thousands of ministers of religion used to live and pray here. 150 monks live there now. Buddha's statue is 26 meters high. It's in the monastery. The statue is covered with gold and encrusted with precious stones. Dalai Lama visited this monastery several times. By a number of believers, Buddhism in its Tibetan form is the major religion in Mongolia. Ancestors of Mongolians were familiar with Buddhism from the 2nd century. Even the title Dalai Lama appeared in Mongolia. In Genghis Khan times, shamanism was the major religion. According to it, powerful Tengri are supreme gods who live in heaven. It's a reality without no beginning and no end. Shamans never had purpose to build temples. According to shaman traditions, people who deify nature maintain the balance and try to do no harm. There were special places where gods and spirits expressed themselves. People built altars from wood, stones, and clay to sacrifice and pray. They put posts and tie ribbons. This place was called holy, and a lot of people arrived there to hold rites. A lot of shaman sanctuaries became Buddhist in 12th and 13th centuries. By that time, Buddhism became the major religion in Mongolia. According to Buddhist cosmology, a view of Ovo was changed. There are a lot of such constructions in Mongolia. Ovo is an ancient sanctuary for gods and spirits of a place. You can see Ovo on the crossings with the caravan trails, or on the tops of the mountains, or next to Buddhist temples. Ovo can be in the form of pile of stones. For example, on the north of the country, with few stones, you can see a high hut above the big pile of stones. Ovo were saved better than many temples, which were ruined during anti-religious campaigns of Soviet Union. At the beginning of the 20th century, there were almost 800 monasteries and temples. Monasteries were the only educational centers for the accumulation of scientific knowledge in the country. By the end of the 1930s, all monasteries were closed, many of them were ruined. A lot of lamas were repressed and forced to pursue secular lifestyle. For example, here, next to Bigar, we could see 750 years old ruins of the monastery. It's a very powerful place. The active revival of Buddhism started in 1990 in Mongolia. The Karakorin is the modern name for Erdeni Dzu in Karakorum, is the oldest place which was founded in the 16th century. The Russian princes, as well as Alexander Nevsky, went here. In the 18th century, the territories from Pacific to the Baltics were controlled from here. It used to be a big city, but the Chinese ruined it. Now, it's a small town, very popular among pilgrims. The north of Mongolia is completely different. Khantai Mountains with forests, canyons, rivers, lakes, hot springs and volcanoes. We visited the volcano crater of Khorgo. The volcano was erupting in 2030 before Christ. Then we went to get warm to hot springs in Tsenher. There are hotels and yurt camps there. People are using recreation at its fullest. Then the road went to Big Lakes Hollow. It's a large tectonic formation. A lot of natural areas on a small territory is unique nature of this hollow. There are the most northern deserts and the most southern mountain tundras in the world in this hollow. The path of bird migration from western and central Siberia is via this hollow. There are salty and freshwater lakes here. There are lots of lakes with no outlets. Hargasner is the deepest and full water lake in the hollow of big lakes. Legends about Mongolian Loch Ness are connected with this lake. You can see wonderful sunsets here. The territory around the lake is empty. Little families of cattlemen live next to the lake, and there are some touristic camps. Lakes in Mongolia are full of fish. Water gets warm enough for swimming in summer. Lake Uregnur in the mountain hollow is not far from the border with Russia. One can see snow peaks from the lake. Turkic mounds were found in the valley of this lake. The lake itself is very beautiful. The water is clean and clear. There is all year-round touristic camp on the bank. Before our arrival, one man came to us and told about the lake monster Olgoy Khorkhoy and showed the video. Achetnur is the last lake in our expedition. It's a freshwater lake with a depth of only 5 meters. There are wetlands on the north and on the east. A lot of birds make nests here. Fancy sandstone cliffs are not far from the lake. These cliffs attract tourists. Mongolia is a wonderful country. It's impossible to not fall in love with it. You leave Mongolia, but it stays inside of you. All this road of winds, the atmosphere of freedom, the sense of adventure and discovery, the ancient power of nature. It is not only the memory, but the spirit and the part of you. So you want to come back.